talk about how I helped Ben with his self-talk. And then also, another thing is Ben liked to ask me questions over and over and over and over and over again. Over and over and over again, right, Ben?
Mm-hmm.
Lots of questions, same question repetitively. So if that's something that you guys are seeing with your kids, maybe send a comment so I know. And I know self-talk, even when children are verbal and have language like Ben does, they still often have self-talking behaviors that I don't mind in the home at all, and I've used the self-talk to actually help bring out his language, so I don't really like to shut that off. I like to use it to help talk to him. And this is a little aside, if you hear your child self-talking in the home, it's really great to join their conversation of what they're self-talking about. That helped Ben get a lot of speech. So I would hear it and ask questions related to that and join in what he's doing. But there's times we're out in public, we're at libraries, where else might we be?
Grocery stores.
Grocery stores, church, where self-talk isn't really appropriate, and it is important to help teach them a little bit of time and place that they can self-talk, but I don't like to extinguish the self-talk because I feel it can be a very useful tool to help bring out their language. But when you're out in public, what do you do when they're used to self-talking? So we came up with a strategy, worked really well for Ben. Show them what you have in your hands.
2 bracelets.
2 bracelets. What does the green one mean?
It means you can self-talk.
And what does the red one mean?
You can self-talk.
Right, so number 1, we use these bracelets. We got a green and a red band, but any colors. We got all these bands, we use them for different things. Okay, so, but first, I had to teach Ben what self-talk was. That was the very first part. So, every time I heard him self-talk in the home, I would label it for him. I would just say, hey Ben, that's called self-talk, what you're doing. Probably about a week of this I did, where I'd hear him self-talk, maybe about Thomas, and I would say, oh, you're self-talking about Thomas. That's called self-talk. Because first he had to identify what self-talk really was, right? And then, like the second week, when I would hear the self-talk, I would ask him, what kind of talk is that? And I'd wait for him to say self-talk. He had speech at this time. Not every kid can do this. But I just had to really make sure he understood what self-talk was. So after labeling it for him, I would start to ask him, what kind of talk is that? And he would say self-talk. Or if I was talking to myself, we all do this sometimes, I would say, Ben, mommy's self-talking. So once he really understood what self-talk was, then we labeled these. Green is, it's really fine to self-talk. Self-talk away, right, bud?
Mm-hmm.
And where might we use this bracelet?
In the home or in the car.
A lot of times in the car. When I put him in the car, I'd put this on him. He'd wear it around the house. And then if we were going somewhere in public that it was really important for him to be quiet, we would say, this means no self-talk. And it wasn't perfect, wasn't 100%, Ben didn't self-talk, but it was a visual reminder to him when he'd look at his wrist that he's supposed to try in those moments to be more quiet. Now, sometimes all I'd have to do, if he was self-talking like in church or the library or something, was point to his bracelet instead of saying, try not to self-talk here, Ben. So we use these bracelets. Self-talk, don't self-talk, or try not to. I know it's kind of impossible for them to not do it all the time, but these really, really helped Ben. Again, self-talk in the home, I almost like to hear it because I know he's using language, and I join that conversation to get him to talk to me more. I join whatever they're self-talking about is something they're really interested in, usually, right? Yeah, something they're excited about or really, really just very interested in. So when you can join that, it helps get a little more engagement out of them and some more language. That's what I noticed with Ben. So this is a really good one. We still use these for different things, so any colors you like, but we went with green for go and red for stop, and it really helped him. So this is our self-talk strategy, right, bud? So our other strategy we want to talk to you guys about is excessive questions. Ben loved to ask the same question over and over and over and over and over. And what were some questions you'd ask Mommy over and over again?
When are we getting more food?
Let's start with that one. When are we getting more food? Because he hates to think of of any kind of food running low, right?
And it got better as I
better.
got grown up. But then it got a little worse because of quarantine.
Got a little harder for him over quarantine. Yeah, that's very good to express that, buddy. And what's another question you'd ask me over and over?
Am I contagious?
Is he contagious if he were to get sick? Or am I contagious if he heard me coming down with something? He's immune deficient, so he has a lot of OCD over germs. But the questions would be so excessive that it was hard for me to constantly reassure him and answer the same thing over and over again. So I had two different strategies I came up with, and I'd say they kind of helped him equally. So maybe you could hear both and see which one you kind of feel might help you if you have a similar situation. One were
Question cards.
question cards. I just made these today. I have a bunch of question cards with numbers on them. Question 1, 2, 3, 4. When he started, because the questioning was so frequently, I really used a lot of these cards. Maybe I gave him 20 in the day. And the first time he would ask me a question, if it was a new question, like the first time, like when are we getting more food, if I answered it and said tomorrow we're going to the grocery store, I let that question go. But then when he'd come back to me and ask me again, what would you say again?
When are we getting more food?
When are we getting more food? I'd say I can answer that, Ben, but you have to give me one of your question cards. So if he wanted me to answer it, he really needed me to answer it, he'd give up a card. Once he ran out of cards, I wasn't answering anything for the day. He learned that. I had to be very, really follow through with it. So he started to get very particular when he wanted to use a card. And as he got older, I cut down the number of cards. Like maybe I went from 20 to 15 just to wean it down. And this strategy helped a lot. He didn't want to give up his cards, so he stopped asking so many questions.
Yeah.
Repetitive questions.
Repetitive questions.
Repetitive.
And we abolished it.
We abolished the strategy. But we had another question strategy. Do you remember that?
The book.
The book. The book was like a journal that I let Ben pick out. And if he asked me a question like, are you contagious, Mom? I said, no, Mom is not contagious. And we would write that answer. We would actually write the question in the book, Mom, are you contagious? And then the answer, no, I am not contagious. And if he came back and asked me the same question again, right, Ben? What would that be?
Are you
contagious? I would say, Ben, the answer to that question is in the book. You can go read your book. And he did. He'd go read the book and he'd see the answer. And that kind of helped him. If he wanted to ask again and again, he had those answers. I would just tell him the answers are not changing today. They are the same answers, and it's in your book. And so I could just direct him to the book or remind him he has a book. And that was just another strategy that helped to soothe him with the excessive questioning that he had. I think a lot of kids, even the highest functioning of kids, a lot of them have OCD. And the questions are reassuring, and I understand that. And I wanted to give him the reassurance, but I also wanted to come up with a way that he could start reassuring himself a little bit. So that as he gets older, maybe he could have his own question book where he puts answers in and reads them to himself, or something that kind of calms him down. So I was a fan of both the question cards and the book. They both helped us tremendously. Maybe they will help you guys. The bracelets for self-talk helped us as well. Self-talk is probably one of the hardest autism traits to, I don't want to say control, because I don't see it as something we need to get rid of. I see it as a tool we can use to help them speak. But I do see it as a time and place, and something needing to be learned for time and place. So to teach time and place with self-talk, the bracelets were excellent. So What do you think, Ben? Did you like those? Ben, as he got older, started creating his own strategies for things he knew he needs help with, right? Yeah, and if we were making a strategy, he would like to be a part of the creating of the strategy, right? So what do you think for kids who are self-talking or asking a lot of questions?
That would be good.
These will be good? Think they will help? Anything you want to say to your followers before you say goodbye? Do you guys have any questions about the strategies? Any questions about that at all? You're welcome. I'm glad. I hope this is helpful. We'll keep this up on the page. And just, you want to tell them when your book's coming out?
My book's coming out tomorrow.
What's it called?
Ask Ben About Autism.
What's it about?
All the Ask Ben questions I answered.
On your page over the last year or so, all in a book. So we also hope that this will be a good tool to help you guys. Send us more questions. We'd love to go live to answer some ways we've helped Ben through the years and share them with you. So you can definitely send questions to the page and we'll do our best to help you guys out. Can Ben tell why he asks the same questions over and over? That's a good question. Why? Do you know why you would ask the same question over and over?
I don't know why. Just so I can feel good.
So you could feel good? Okay. Sometimes that's the simplest answer. It's the truth, I'm sure. It's like it must be reassuring and calming for them in a way. And we don't always have all those why answers, right? But I do know it relaxed him. So the book was a good strategy because he could look at that answer as often as he wanted to. Any other questions you guys have? We thank you for being part of Ben's page. How does Ben deal with boredom? How do you deal with boredom? Ben's rarely bored. Are you bored a lot?
Not that often.
What are the things you do to occupy your time if we don't have anything going on?
Going on YouTube and writing shows.
He likes to create his own TV
and web series cartoons.
Yes, and it's very creative. He plays his music, right? He goes on Spotify a lot and listens to music and picks out his favorite songs. That's something you do, right? Trying to think. He also likes Legos a lot, and he still likes Play-Doh, believe it or not. I know, we all do. So those are some things you do too, right? I would say music, YouTube, listening to music, creating shows in his mind that he likes to write out, Legos, Play-Doh, things he can build with. Ben is a very talented musician. Someone said you're very talented. What do you say to that?
Thanks.
Thank you. What do you watch? Oh, he watches so many different things on YouTube. And he has his favorite TV shows. What are your favorite TV shows?
The King of Queens, Everybody Hates Chris, George Lopez, The Office.
He likes comedies, right?
Such as The Office, The King of Queens, and George Lopez.
Yes. The book will be available on Amazon. Thank you for asking that. It'll be available tomorrow. Your son likes building stuff and YouTube too. Yeah, I think a lot of these kids are into building. I'm glad the strategies help. Yes, these kids use their imaginations all the time. They create scenes in their minds, and that's a lot of the self-talk Ben does, is what he's creating in his mind. So I use that and ask him, like, what are you thinking about? And because when he's in that mode, I can get a lot of conversation out of him because it's something that he's really interested in and excited about. So, do you have some, does Ben have jokes? Do you have some jokes? We'll try to come up with jokes. Okay, guys, I hope this helped you guys. Let us know some more questions, and Ben always likes to look at himself in the camera, right, Bud? And make faces in the camera. We're just really happy to help you guys. Coming up to Lake George this summer. Oh, we love Lake George. Scott knows you love Lake George. We love Lake George, but with this year, we're skipping Lake George.
We're skipping Lake George because of COVID-19.
We're gonna be there next year.
We're gonna be there next year when we get away from the germs.
If anyone has any music too they'd like to hear Ben try to play, always send us that as well. Ben loves to try to create some music for you guys. Any other? I'm gonna come back on soon to talk about eye contact because that was a big thing, and some other strategies I'm thinking of to help you guys. How do you manage stimming in public? My boy is 9 and gets embarrassed when he needs to stim. I allow the stimming. That's one thing for us that I feel like public needs to learn, that stimming is something these kids do to calm down, especially in public when there's a lot of sensory stuff going on. So for me, it's more about educating other people about what stimming is and how it's helping these children than to make them stop doing it, because I think we're taking away something that's very needed for them and calming for them. So I do allow the stimming. I know a lot of the therapists don't love that, but I just like to educate people that stimming is something you're going to see in kids with autism, and we need to change our thought about what that is and how that's perceived. How about noise, especially when we go in the supermarket? I use the bracelets again. I know it's also self-talk, but I just you can pair it with time to be quiet, and that includes self-talk. I've used the bracelets for that. Let's see, any other questions? All right, guys. We hope that this helped, and we'll be back in a few days or so. We'll talk about eye contact and maybe keeping conversation going, staying on topic. That's a good one. All those types of things. So Ben's still making his faces in camera. And thank you guys for watching and being a part of his mission. And we hope you're all well and enjoying your day. And want to say bye to everyone? What do you
Bye. Don't forget, autism is a superpower.
Sure is. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye.